My name is Tommaso, Pollio, producer and composer for most of the meditation music you hear on the Spirit in Action YouTube channel. I'm joined today by the other half of the Spirit in Action team, writer and teacher Claire Bourgin.
Hi Tom, how you going?
Yeah, good. Claire has been a spiritual counsellor with many years' experience. She's had a profound influence on my life and others, teaching the art of moving beyond conditioning, belief systems, opinions, and projections, helping me and others to make paradigm shifts in consciousness. Working with the ever-patient Claire, one can develop an open heart in a sacred and safe place. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this podcast, Claire. Welcome.
You're welcome, Tom.
A few years ago we started the Spirit in Action YouTube channel, and I think we currently have 51 separate meditations on offer, freely available on YouTube, tackling many topics. What I'd love to do today is talk more about the very first topic we tackled in day one of getting to know who you are.
Okay.
So Claire, how do we start on this process of getting to know who we are, and what do we do to transform ourselves?
Well, we have to go in, not out. So we have to become aware and watch what we feel, how we act, and how we perform in our lives. As we start to become more aware of those things, we start to recognise certain patterns within ourselves, and then we can start to see that certain things have a habit of coming in cycles.
So you speak of cycles, like what do you, for example?
Well, everything in our life comes in a cycle of time. You know, as we become more aware of this, we're able to see, really, truthfully, that what we feel is not about now. We just confuse it with being about now.
We interpret what's happening to us.
We interpret it from the feelings we felt way back in time. Whereas if we're more aware, we will realise that the circumstances are very different, but the feelings we feel for those circumstances haven't changed.
Another thing you talk about in this first day is the whole process of meditation is to go internally. And often you say there's no such thing as a bad meditation.
No. Well, I think, I believe a meditation does you don't do it. You just sit. And slowly, you become quieter as you go on meditating. I do think that what happens when you sit and meditate is what's in you will rise to the surface. So if you're angry, that will rise to the surface. If you're sad, the sadness may rise to the surface. But it's a way of letting it out of the body, in a sense. If you don't get too attached to that, it will just move on. So I think that meditation is a really good way for calming the body, helping to centre you and find more of a centre in yourself. And I think it's just a process that as you do it, it will start to take care of you.
Because often people think, well, what I used to think was meditation had to give you a certain feeling, and if you didn't get that, then you failed at...
No, not at all, because as I say, what's in you rises to the surface.
Right.
When you go quiet. In a funny way, it's a bit like the times at the moment. So many people who don't spend time on their own or isolate are finding it quite tricky right now.
I can imagine, yeah.
Because what's in you rises to the surface. I see that as a wonderful seed of opportunity, an opportunity to connect to yourself. And meditation will help you connect to yourself. It's a tool for helping a deep letting go occur of its own accord. I think it's extremely beneficial for one in one's life.
Another thing you talk about in this first day meditation is about neurochemicals. Can we discuss more about that? What do these neurochemicals do?
Well, it's a bit hard to say in a really quick time. Neurochemicals can affect our mood, can affect the way we behave, and the moment we're triggered, the neurochemicals already are setting off. So let's just say you've been deeply hurt at some point. So if you get hurt, say now, the old neurochemicals will be set off in your brain. So even if it's not as severe as what it was when it first went in, it doesn't mean that what comes up is going to be any less. So as those chemicals are starting to roam around you, as I say, a feeling will last for half an hour through your body. So as they start to set off, don't think that's going to suddenly stop just because you're working on yourself. Okay, so we will always feel. It's just a matter of allowing that feeling to be there and acknowledging it, knowing that chemicals are going to be set off in your brain, but just letting it ride through you without getting attached to it. And then it will pass, because everything is impermanent.
And so some of these are seeded way before, like when someone is young.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so it's embedded into the...
Well, it's well embedded into the unconscious and into the body.
Right.
So we have what I call active memories. So an active memory is a memory with a charge in your body. So if somebody triggers you, that charge has been set off. And as I say, it doesn't mean it's going to make you feel any less than it did when something went in. And you can easily confuse that with being about now.
Yes, there's something wrong with me. What?
Yeah.
Why did I react like that?
Okay, so we become overreactive any time we're triggered.
That explains things when, I sometimes erupt, and you go, where did that come from? That person just said something and that triggered me.
Yeah, it can trigger you so deeply that we don't realise at all that it's triggered our old inner feelings, whatever they may be.
So with these patterns, how do we interrupt them?
Well, the only way we learn to interrupt them is to see them. So as we become the watcher watching ourselves, slowly we can start to see them, and then we can start to go, oh, here we go, this is the same old feeling. This is the same old thought and emotion that I always felt. And then look at it, watch it and look at it. Don't judge it, observe it. And as we observe more and more, we will start to see that it's really not about now. It's actually very deep. And then we can start to feel it without interrupting it, let it run through the body, but remove it and replace it, and in the head say your words, because that will help you to stay in the moment. And it gives you something positive to replace it with, which is neutral. If it's neutral, it doesn't set up new conditions.
Neutral, right. What are these triggers? Well, how do we...
Well, you'll know you've been triggered anytime you become reactive at all. Anytime we get upset or angry or annoyed, we've been triggered.
Right.
So if we, instead of acting out the trigger straight away, start to observe it and watch it, see what it's telling you. So quite often I'll say to people, what are you feeling? And they'll say, sad. And I say, why? What's the sadness saying to you? So that you can start to look at what's underneath those things.
So where does it come from? Is that what...
Well, I believe we have an inner dialogue, all of us, and that really that's what runs our life.
And how do we learn to feel them, and when we often go off on them?
As we learn to observe them, instead of acting out on them, we can be more mindful of them and see more clearly when we go into them again and when they come around.
Often you tell me to remove and replace.
Well, it's very important because in all healing, when you remove, you must replace. But it's what you replace with. With the statements, they're neutral. They don't set up new conditions.
I mean, we talk about this later in the series. From day 10 onwards, Claire gives these statements. So we'll talk about that later, but why did we replace them? I mean...
Well, because we need to build new neural pathways in the brain. We need to become aware of how the way we feel when we're in it is deeply affected by our belief systems and our opinions. And as we start to observe them more, we can start to let go of some of those opinions and belief systems, see how much they've influenced our lives.
And they've often been handed down to us.
Oh, always love this. Always, I think. Our parents behaved the way they did from their conditioning and so on. There's no one to blame. I believe we go where our karma is supposed to be. There's no accidents.
Right.
And our life is an opportunity to work towards letting go of our limitations.
And being mindful?
Well, through the practice of mindfulness.
Okay, what is mindfulness?
Well, mindfulness is becoming aware of what we're thinking, what our intents are, our motives, and our feelings. And as we become aware of them, we can see how much they influence our life. Because as I said to you many times, I believe the seed of who we truly are lies very, very deep within us. So the more we meditate, the more we cultivate our change of mind, the more we will access that.
And being aware of these patterns and...
being aware of them is vital.
And most people, sadly, would not be aware of these patterns.
Well, some people are, some aren't. But to be so mindful that you are aware of every thought you have and where you choose to put your mind is another thing altogether. Many people think they've got there and say, I don't need the words anymore. They don't realise how they hold you, how they will sustain and grow in you.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you, Tommaso,
for
all your beautiful music
well,
and your time.
If you'd like to know more, we have a Spirit in Action YouTube channel, and it's all free. You just go on there, and it's basically a continuum of meditations which run on to each other.
Yes, so that people can look at things.
We don't throw you in the deep end. So this first day one meditation is basically what we've just been talking about. The life-giving statements are gradually added in once. I think, Claire, we think we spend 10 days.
I think it's about after 10 days, yeah.
Yeah, we sort of explain.
And the ideas about the meditations are a small talk beforehand and then a 20-minute meditation, which is easily accessible to most people. Because the reason a lot of people don't sustain things is that they're too lazy, basically.
Or, I don't have enough time. But then what is time?
Well, that's right. Well, most people will sit down and have a cup of coffee quite easily for half an hour.
Or get stuck on social media.
Yeah, but can't do a 20-minute meditation, and it will change your life if you do it every day.
Yeah, well, it certainly has. It also changed me for the better in what I do work-wise.
Well,
I'm a lot more focused with things.
But you're much more aware of your impact in the world. And you're energetically clean.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that soon. Yeah. So if anyone would like to become more aware of their patterns and how it runs their lives and how to transform them, you can also make an appointment with Claire. Go on her website. Is it Spirit in... What's the...
Spirit in Action.
Claire... under... Claire?
It's just under Claire.
Claire?
Yeah.
Like Prince, but Claire. Sorry. Yes, you'll find that Spirit in Action, the YouTube channel, Spirit in Action. There's a link there that you can click on to get in touch with her. She's available over Skype if you don't want to go in person. Works internationally as well. And also she makes appointments if you want to see face to face, if you feel comfortable with that too. Yes, this is our first podcast, so thank you for joining us and
yes, thank you.
And sticking out with us. Bye.